I would like to thank Antonio Fallico for the possibility of participating. The city of Grozny, as a matter of fact, is a city which is young. It only has some 200 years. It was destroyed by 200%. Specialists said that it would take some 50 years to build something which is similar to a city like that. And thanks to the policy of Kadyrov, I would like to say that we could, in a very short time, rebuild the city. And today, the city is well represented. And I would like to say that we thought we would transfer the city in a different place. And Kadyrov, the father, the previous president, insisted that it had to be rebuilt where it was. And today, the Grozny city has changed incredibly. It's one of the most beautiful cities in the Russian Federation. It's a little bit bigger than Milan. It's something like 300 square meters, and it's having a potential, an economic potential that was rich in gas and oil. And even Vatican was accessing it for oil products. And candles were made here. So the contacts between Italy and the city do exist and have been existing for many years. They have just simply to be renewed. And I think that the city has been developed very readily. In the year 2015, the city grew by 11% in just a decade. That is when it happened. And the portfolio of investments, some 200 billion rubles, and there are projects known as Ahmed Tower, a tower, and that is a 122-story tower, probably the highest in Europe. We also envisage the building up of a thermoelectrical tower, 489 megawatts, plus an entire complex, agro-food complex, in order to allow for new investments, industrial parks, agricultural clusters, and the state takes up upon itself the burden of costs and the entire bureaucratic course and pathway, which is not going to disturb, stands as a guarantee. And this is something that allows for a reality. The situation is absolutely safe and stable. This is one of the safest areas, most high security areas. And it's much better to see once what the reality is rather than hearing about it 100 times. Today, the flow of tourism and the birth rate is a sign that everyone believes in this reality. We have 23 parts, which stands for the highest index, demographic index in Russia. And there are some social websites, roads, and as far as the agro-food, we have offered to investors the agro-industrial complex, greenhouses, orchard products, fruit products, all of the agro-food industry involving fish and meat. But also at the Soviet time, we were allowing for the climate and the atmosphere in this area to take place. We did not invent anything. Today, that connection, that situation that was created was capable of attracting investors. Obviously, there have been lots of designers, many investors in the cuisine sector, architects. We would like to have and see many more. We would like to have a higher degree, a higher level of cooperation. And let's say that we are ready to offer areas, projects for the implementation of common projects, joint projects with investors. And today, one of the parameters indicative of the stability of the situation is the quantity of tourists that still increase year after year. And this year, as opposed to the 2015, the quantity has been of some 250,000. Obviously, this is not Verona. It's a different place. In Verona, we have millions of tourists. Unfortunately, Shakespeare could not envisage or foresee that one day a city like Grozny would exist, where maybe Romeo and Juliet could have come together and could have met. Maybe in future time we will see Shakespeare describing something like touristic flows that could be accounting for millions. In the first place, let me greet another mayor who just joined us, Vincenzo Bianco, the mayor of Catania. And he was also a minister, a member of parliament in Italy. And he is within the partnership of Italian municipalities. Now, those who know well the territory have an understanding of what the special and important elements are, those that create development. The Ministry of Chechnya Ministry and Culture was calling the foreign investor to intervene in livestock areas. I believe that you also were a minister of economy in Chechnya, if I'm not wrong. Would you want to give any suggestions to the investors who would like to access the market in Chechnya? Because Moscow was talking about this plan, which is substantially aiming at reaching some autarky, some self-managed activities. We no longer talk about made in Italy, but rather of made with Italy movement, products that are being manufactured with the help of Italian companies. Do you have any suggestions with this respect to give us? It is the very nature, the climatic conditions, the alpine fields that are existing in Chechnya that have allowed for the right accents within the agricultural sector as far as livestock farming, as far as greenhouses that tend to grow in number, and the fisheries and meat sector, the selection of berries that are growing in great abundance, preservation, and for the investors, as I've said, that we already have some ready-made projects that can be shared with us, so as to allow them to take a vision of what the idea is. Now, obviously, we give priority to the sectors, and it's highly convenient in the field of the national plan of the replacement of imports. And obviously, this means agriculture, agro-food, orchard products, infrastructure. And we are trying to minimize all of the possible difficulties, bureaucratic difficulties, livestock farming, the transformation of the food industry, because while trying to look for new import activities, there is the growth of the agricultural sector that is meant to take place and which is due and motivated by external factors, but at the same time also by the fact that products that are manufactured in Chechnya already come with a name and a label of green products, clean products, pure products. So we are using natural products, and this is the cherry on the pie. So green products, clean products that benefit from great appreciation. They're very popular. And in the field of replacement of imports, nowadays the state at national level, at federal level, at republican level, that is within Chechnya, is promoting all of those agricultural projects that go towards the replacement of imports. So substitution of imports is the word that was launched by the Moscow government, and that was also accepted within the Euro-Asian Union. And that was the buzzword to attract investments. Let's say that in this kind of investments, I wonder whether this is also supported by local aids or reduced taxations maybe, or easy terms agreements on the side of the state. Well, undoubtedly, all this was supported by the support of the state, of the authorities, state authorities, and this was also allowing for the internal activation. And the same persons understand, independent of investments, that's the right direction. We register a growth within the agro-food sector and the agricultural sector, so much so that the request of products is growing day by day, on a day-by-day basis, year after year. So if before sanctions the Russian Federation was buying for billions of products, today in Chechnya we can still allow for the contribution of the substitution of imports with our own regional products coming from our own fields. Now, obviously, the state allows for a privileged channel to the local producer, to the local farmers, allowing him to have credit lines, many easy terms, and possible stimulating levers. There has been a localization of investments also with buffalo farming. Is that right? This is a rumor that was circulating. Well, honestly, I can't speak on behalf of Russia, but what I can say is that if it's convenient and beneficial, we can also work on that front. The concept of import replacement is interesting, because this morning the president of Confindustria was estimating to 3.5 billion the loss in terms of imports because of sanctions and counter-sanctions. In the only agro-food sector, we registered a loss in the solar year 2015, so that means that the sanction regime started in the year 2014, and in the year 2015 it was as high as 33%. This is the sector that really suffered the highest losses in terms of exports. So huge losses of exports towards Russia. The orchard products and the fruit product, that is products coming from North Africa, Morocco, and other providers and suppliers. Well, this is something which is provoking difficulties in the agro-food, Italian agro-food. Otherwise, the loss in other sectors is equal to 24-25%. So there is an extra 10% which is affecting the agro-food in excess, as opposed to the other sectors. Now, even in the field of other sectors, such as other partners as well may be attracted in Chechnya. And we have this mayor who also was a journalist. He well knows how strong the information power can be and how the change in opinion and reassurance of the fact that that could be a territory which is interesting is something which is very high and hard. It takes lots of efforts. And yes, investments and technology rank first. Many people live out of any such stereotypes and concepts, and it seems that in the roads of Grozny there are bombs that seem to be falling in plenty, and this is not true because investments are confirmed by our statistics, and we know that as far as criminality is concerned, we have the lowest index in Russia. And this is indicative, I believe, and I would like to say even more. And today, with respect to what happened and with respect to what exists in other subjects in the Russian Federation, we are living a safe life. There is peace at all levels, even at religious or interconfessional level, interreligious level. We have mosques, we have Christian churches. Now, talking to you, and when talking to you, I was told that the majority of the religious and believers are the Sufi majority. So you could oppose the strong radicalism that took place in previous years. By now, from that viewpoint, the problem seemed to be solved. Well, nowadays, I believe that this is a problem that has been completely solved because people have understood that there is an entire wrong belief, and today we are not feeding anymore any such issues, and the population has well understood that. All of the structures present and needed understand that. So the extremism and radicalism problem is a problem that no longer exists in our region, in our area. The problem of safety is not even something which stands in our own agenda. In our own agenda, we have economic development, social development. And today, the Chechen Republic, and I can say this, is the only region which has defeated terrorism. I can say that quite clearly. That's very important. And I do remember that when I started writing as a journalist, my first article was on Chechnya and what happened in Chechen region. And I was remembering that at that time that was a territory that could bring about repercussions in terms of destabilization as far as radical Islamism, and not only within the Russian Federation, which was the case at that time, but also within Eastern territories, China territories, the famous Xinjiang. And again, as you have seen, there was an entire development in the rest of the Middle East until recent facts. So let's go back to the initial fact, the agro-food, the development of agro-food production and manufacturing, the development of and the satisfaction of basic needs only too often turns into the spark that will ignite geopolitical destabilization. So we go back to the topic that originated this session.